if you're out there basing your real estate decisions on a Fraser ranking, that you're probably doing something wrong. So what is a family to do then to be able to buy real estate in the city of Toronto? I know there's some people out there say just don't live in Toronto. What are the top 5 things that you should be looking for as a family wanting to purchase a condo in the city of Toronto? As a realtor, we always hear the same questions. How is the market? Where is the market at? Is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? Should I wait? What should I do? This is how I came up with what I like to call the MPI, or Market Pulse Index. Hey there, people. Welcome to episode number 15 of the Under the Radar Real Estate Podcast with your host, as always, Josh, broker here in the city of Toronto. We're a little late on this month's podcast. It was a busy month. No excuses though, but we're back at it. I'm not going to drop it. And on today's show, we are going to keep the same format as our last few podcasts. So we're going to start off with our podcast. We are going to start off with the market update in segment 1. We are going to actually drop a new statistic that I created. It might not be a perfect mathematical statistic, but it's going to give us a read on where the market's at. If you're a seller out there, is it a good time to sell? If you're a buyer out there, is it a good time to buy? So we're going to get into that in our first segment. Then we're going to move on to segment 2, and we are going to talk about something we talk about a lot on this channel, and that is families living in condos. The top 5 things that families should consider when they're looking to buy a condo. And then something that kind of ties into that for our third segment, we are going to try to debunk some of the myths around the Fraser report and Fraser rankings and how that applies to your real estate search. Are the rankings valid? Are they accurate? Do they actually give you a good representation of what the schools are like in that neighborhood? You're spending hundreds of thousands or almost $1 million on real estate. Should you rely on these reports to make your real estate decisions? We're going to get into all of that in segment 3, but as promised, let's jump right into our first segment, which is the market report here in the city of Toronto. So for the market report, we are going to look at the stats from April for the overall city of Toronto. So sales were down about 5% last month. You've seen it everywhere on the news. And those numbers are over last year, so 5% less than last year at this time. The overall average price was flat though for last year, as we haven't really seen much change. A lot of pricing is dictated by rates, and most of you probably just saw recently, it looks like the inflation numbers have come in a little bit lower than expected, so that might hint at a rate cut. Who knows? I'm not here to predict the overall Canadian economy. When we look at listings are up significantly across the board, and that number is going to factor into our new statistic that we're going to drop soon. And then lastly, days on market is ticking upwards. That's the amount of time it takes for a property to sell. Days on market, that's ticking upwards, and that kind of correlates with the amount of listing inventory, both new and existing listings, quite a bit higher. So buyers have more choice, so properties take longer to sell. So that is those are the overall numbers for the city of, or for the region of Toronto, the GTA. Now let's dive into some of the specific under the radar neighborhoods. That's what you came here for. That's what we cover in this channel. So for the under the radar neighborhoods, we focus on the old city of York. So any of you who follow this channel, you know where that is. But very quickly, it's a neighborhood bounded by Yonge Street in the east. We've got the Humber River or Weston in the west, stretching up to about Lawrence, just south of Lawrence in the north, and then St. Clair West in the south. So that section of the city used to be called York. It was amalgamated into the city of Toronto back in the early 1900s. And those are the under the radar neighborhoods that we target on this channel. So within these neighborhoods, there are 3 kind of distinct Toronto Real Estate Board neighborhoods within this general area. So the first one is C03. It encompasses the neighborhoods of Oakwood Village, Humewood, Cedarvale, a little bit of South Forest Hill. So in this neighborhood, this pocket of York, I like to call it the entry-level real estate pocket. We are looking at average home price index at around 1.7 million which may seem like a lot, but when you compare it to Lawrence Park, Forest Hill, and Witchwoods, you are looking at a $400,000 to $500,000 savings on average for the average home in that neighborhood C03. And then when we spin up to W04, which is Weston and Briar Hill and some of those neighborhoods, we are looking at an HPI index of 536,000. So when we look at that compared to the overall average in the GTA of 1.1 million, you can be in the 416 in the city of Toronto just over $900,000 in these neighborhoods. And then when we look at W03, which is the southern portion of the city of York, we are looking at an average price of right around $900,000. So talk about it again and again. These neighborhoods are under the radar right now. They are not likely going to be under the radar much longer. As soon as that LRT opens in these, that cuts right through these neighborhoods, we are going to see price growth likely explode in this pocket, especially with all the development that accompanies the infrastructure that is already there. It just needs to open. All right, so now I've teased this new statistic enough. So it's a statistic, kind of think of it somewhat along the lines of WAR in baseball, wins above replacement. Or if you're a basketball fan, think of it as stonks, which is steals and blocks. So there are statistics that usually encompass multiple statistics that you put into one. It kind of gives you an analytics view of where, like, what a player's doing or what a team might be doing in whatever given sport. So when I look at the stats in that the Toronto Real Estate Board hands out to us, and when I have my buyers and sellers asking me where the market's at, as a realtor, we always hear the same questions. How's the market? Where's the market at? Is it a good time to buy? Is it a good time to sell? Should I wait? What should I do? There isn't really a statistic that we can point to really quickly to say, hey, this is where the market's at. So for the past few months, I've been kind of racking my brain and trying to think, is there something that I could use? And on this channel, as if you've been following our market updates, we generally point to two under the radar statistics, being months of inventory and sales to new listings ratio. So with months of inventory, if there were no new listings to hit the market in any given point in time, it would take X amount of months to sell off all the inventory. So a balanced market is 2.5 months for the city of Toronto. So anything below that would mean we are firmly in a seller's market. Anything above that would mean we're in a buyer's market. That would just mean that there's a lot of choice. When we look at SNLR, or sales to new listings ratio, that's the percentage of new listings that have sold in a given month. So right now, the sales to new listings ratio in most neighborhoods across the city is below 50%. So less than 50% of new listings that hit the market within a given month are being sold, which would indicate that we are in a buyer's market. So that means the new listings that are hitting the market aren't getting absorbed right away. If that number were above 50%, then that points to a seller's market, where now sellers are in command because as soon as they put a listing on the market, it is selling almost immediately or very, very quickly. Which had me thinking, is there a way for me to combine both of these statistics into one statistic to give us an idea of where the market's at? So I used my brain and I had a little bit of help from AI, and I try to figure out, is there a way for me to combine these two statistics into one to give an accurate read on where the market's at? And this is how I came up with what I like to call the MPI, or Market Pulse Index. Super simple, combines months of inventory and sales to new listings ratio, combines it together. So I'm not going to bore you with explaining all of the details of what MPI is. I'm going to put a link down below to my blog that'll kind of explain the mathematics behind this. So click that link to see where, if you really want to get into the nitty-gritty of where the numbers come from, click the link and you'll see it there. However, really easily to kind of explain what the numbers mean is that if you have a positive MPI, or Market Pulse Index, a positive MPI would indicate a seller's market. So if the number's in the positive, it means that the market is super hot, and seller's market generally indicates that sellers have control and properties are selling quickly and they are dictating price and terms and everything. If we have a negative MPI, that would indicate that we are in a buyer's market. And that would mean that there is a lot of inventory. Buyers have a lot of options. They can wait. They don't have to jump on things as soon as they happen. So that would indicate that the market is slightly cool and buyers are now in control. If the MPI is close to zero, so within -10 to +10, let's say, then you're in a fairly balanced market. It means that we're not necessarily a seller's or buyer's market. Properties are selling at a decent clip, but no one really holds leverage. So let me know down in the comments what you think of the MPI. Do you think it's a pretty good statistic? Is it something that you would like to use? Keep me posted. So when we look at the 3 under the radar neighborhoods from an MPI standpoint, C03, we are sitting at about a -20. So we are leaning very much towards a buyer's market when we look at C03. If we were to look at W03, we are at -27 when it comes to the MPI. So that's a strong indication that W03 is firmly in a buyer's market, which means buyers have the upper hand in this neighborhood as it stands right now. So that means prices are likely a little depressed. I shouldn't say likely because I trade in the neighborhood. They are a little bit lower than where they were a couple of years ago. And there is a lot more on offer there, and there's more choice for buyers. When we look at W04, however, we are sitting at about a -6. So W04 is fairly balanced right now. And I can tell you that I had a client just buy in Weston just recently. And while there wasn't a ton of competition for that house that they were competing for, there was some competition, and they did have to pay a little bit above the asking price to be able to secure their property in Weston. Weston is a neighborhood that for years people have been saying, and I have been saying, is an up-and-coming neighborhood, and people are now really seeing value there. The transit options are already there. You have the Up Express, which the Ford government has now announced that they aren't going to reduce service to that station. So Up Express can get you downtown 20 minutes from Weston. People are seeing the value in that pocket of the city, and it's clearly showing up in the MPI. So going forward, we're going to continue with the MPI index to give people a really quick understanding of where the market's at, get a really quick read on the pulse or the temperature of whatever real estate market I'm looking at. All right, so now let's jump into segment 2 of our podcast. Let's talk about family-friendly condos. If you're a family out there who is struggling with trying to find good real estate in the city of Toronto, the house market has passed you by. As we all know, when it comes to buying a house in the city of Toronto, you need to get to that 20% down threshold to be able to purchase something above $1 million. And a lot of families out there don't have that down payment. Or if you're looking in some trendier neighborhoods of the city where the average price of a semi-detached house or a detached house or even a townhouse is well above $1.2 million. In many of the neighborhoods, if we're looking closer to the downtown core, to get a freehold house, to get a semi-detached or a detached, you're looking at $1.4 to $1.5, almost $1.6 million as an entry level into many of these neighborhoods. So what is a family to do then to be able to buy real estate in the city of Toronto? I know there's some people out there say just don't live in Toronto. That could be the reality for you, but it's not the reality for everybody. So if a condominium is your only option, or if you just choose to live in a condo like I do, what are the top 5 things that you should be looking for as a family wanting to purchase a condo in the city of Toronto? Well, I've come up with a list for you to make that decision perhaps a little bit easier. So number 5 in our list is child-friendly amenities within buildings. So there are some buildings out there, especially some newer condo buildings, that have things built in like a child play area, like a pool that accommodates younger kids. So those are the very obvious ones, but other things to consider when it comes to child-friendly amenities could be things like sports courts, whether it be a basketball court or a volleyball court, something for older kids to take advantage of. right? Or perhaps it could be a yoga space or a party room. A party room is a great flex space in a condominium building to host birthday parties or gatherings. Visitor parking. How often do you need that extra help as a parent? And whether it be a friend or a family member or someone to come visit, and having visitor parking is key. Having a concierge, especially with older kids, having a concierge could be important to you, especially if you're in some of the downtown neighborhoods that are very busy. Having that extra layer of security with a concierge or someone just simply to grab packages. Now, this leads us very easily into number 4 on our list, which is safety features. So we already talked about the concierge, it being amenity and a safety feature. Some other safety features of a condo are things like, does the condo building have cameras set up? Do they take things like realtor keys and lock boxes seriously? Where the building is located in the city or versus where it is located versus the street or the neighborhood. Having a building on a busy or a main street could actually be an advantage. While you do have the disadvantage of a little bit of noise and it being a little bit busier, if your kids are a bit more independent and walking home on their own, it is sometimes a little bit more comforting having them walk home on a busy street rather than a condo building that has an entrance or is located in a quieter, maybe darker area. Being in a slightly busier locale where there's life and action and stuff going on can generally feel a little bit safer. Number 3 on our list is parks and recreational amenities in the neighborhood. It's very vital, especially if you're a parent with young kids, to be close to green space and close to activities for your young kids. We all know that kids have endless amounts of energy, and we have to find a way for them to expel that energy, or none of us as parents will ever get a good night's sleep. So being close to parks and neighborhood amenities where they can expend that energy is key. So not only looking for a small playground with a few apparatuses for kids to swing and slide on, eventually your kids get older, and if you're planning on living in a condominium for a extended length of time, there's only so long. Kids will age out of little playgrounds fairly quickly. So you want to think about parks that not only just have small playground equipment, but also may have a baseball diamond or a soccer field or a pool or a hockey rink, basketball courts, things that older kids can also take advantage of and burn off some of that extra energy. And then number 2 on our list is access to public transit. Last thing you want to do as a parent is have to take 3 buses, a subway, and a streetcar to get to where you're going. Ideally, you want to look for a building that's super close to a transit stop where you can quickly get onto that transit stop, get to where you're going, or when you're getting home, quickly get off that streetcar or subway and be in your front door within minutes. Especially when we have inclement weather, when it's snowing or raining, it is a very nice feature to have public transit nice and close to your building. And then number 1 on our list is proximity to good schools, or proximity to schools in general. Again, something that usually young parents, it's at the top of their mind, but it's also at the top of our list, is being close to schools. So when it comes to condo development in the city of Toronto, there's a contentious push and pull between schools and new development. And you'll see when a new development is proposed, you'll see the Toronto District School Board will usually put up a big sign in front of that development saying, hey, if you're buying in this development, you are not guaranteed to get into whatever school district the address for the condo building is currently in, which in my opinion is something that the city of Toronto has to address, but also something that as a purchaser of a condo, you want to make sure that you're not buying your condo based on a certain school in the neighborhood, because school districts can change, especially when it comes to newer condo buildings. That's something that I always double check on to make sure that whatever condo building they're buying into fits within the school districts and they're not having to put their kids on a bus to be bused 5 kilometers away to a different school district because there's not enough space in whatever school is in that neighborhood. Now, I give you examples of new condos being developed in great neighborhoods that have most of this list covered, the 5 points that I just covered. So the first one we're going to look at is Galleria on the Park. Galleria on the Park is a great located development. So it's on the site where the Galleria Mall used to exist near Dufferin and Dupont in the west end of Toronto. It's not right in one of our under-the-radar neighborhoods, but it abuts the under-the-radar neighborhood. So at Galleria, it pretty much, I shouldn't say pretty much, it hits all 5 of these points that we just mentioned. Schools, child-friendly amenities, great safety features. It's going to have parks, and the developer is actually involved in the redevelopment of the Wallace Emerson Park. So you're going to have a brand new park with skating rinks. There's going to be a pool in the community center, soccer fields, and when we think about public transit, you are a stone's throw away from the Lord Danforth subway line. So you can walk there in like 10-15 minutes or hop on the bus. And then you're also close to the Up Express station over at Dundas West. And you also have the Dufferin bus and the Dupont bus that cut right through the neighborhood. So you're super well connected from a transit standpoint as well. So when we look at a family-friendly layout, I have one up on the screen right now. You can see it right here. So this is one of the layouts in the building. So a unit like this right now is trading just above $1 million. But as you can see on the screen, it's a 3-bedroom plus den layout. So if we were to think about 3-bedroom, 2-washroom houses in this particular neighborhood around Galleria Mall, to get anything decently renovated in this neighborhood, renovated to the same spec of some of these condos, you're looking at 1.4 to 1.5 million as an entry level to get something of this quality in this neighborhood. So when you're looking at some of these units here, like a 3-bedroom in Galleria that's trading around the 1.1 to $1.2 million mark, it's significant savings over the price of a house in the neighborhood. So it gets you into that slightly over $1 million price point in a very well-connected neighborhood right near downtown Toronto. And then the other building that I think would be great for a family looking to live in a condo is the Humber. And this one's out in Weston. So this building is located like 5-minute walk from the Up Express station in Weston. So that means from your front door to downtown Toronto, you can get downtown in under 30 minutes. And that's at rush hour. I'm not saying at 2 a.m. in the morning. At rush hour, you can be at Union Station in under 30 minutes from this location. And then from a price standpoint, I know for a lot of families out there, one of the pain points is getting 20% down payment. So not only does this unit trading for under $900,000, so not only do you not have to have that 20% down payment to purchase this unit, this particular developer has actually partnered with a company called Options for Homes, where they'll actually help you out with your down payment. You only need to come with 5% down payment, and they will actually provide you with up to an additional 20% down payment to actually bump up your down payments, which means that you're not having to mortgage all that extra money at these high rates. They'll invest into your down payment. What usually means in the fine print is that they become a co-equity partner. So once you sell that property down the road, whatever percentage of down payment they provided, you'll have to repay that when you sell. So in this scenario, think of it as a rich uncle coming in saying, hey, we're going to give you an extra couple $100,000 to help you close on this condo. All it means is that when that condo sells, if it sells, and it likely will sell for a larger amount than what you paid for it, we are now just looking to recoup some of that down payment money that we assisted you with. So you can see the layout of the unit right here that I targeted in this building that would be great for families. 988 square feet, 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms. Again, great location. So if you're interested in any of these buildings or any other family-friendly buildings that I have an entire list of, send me your email, comment down below, or email me. We also have a Calendly link. Hit us up. We can either talk about one of these 2 buildings, these 2 units, or talk about any other family-friendly building in the city of Toronto. If you were a family looking for that condo life, we can certainly help you. So hit us up right now. So let's jump into our final segment, something that I talk about with my clients all the time, and that is school rankings. So let's try and sort out what the heck the Fraser Report is, and does it matter and should it matter when you're buying real estate here in the city of Toronto? Is it something that you should really be taking to heart and paying close attention to when you're buying real estate or when you're considering schools for your kids? We talked about it in our last segment. It is the number one thing that most people have to consider when they're purchasing real estate. So I came up with a list of 4 things to consider when thinking about the Fraser rankings and how it should or shouldn't apply to your real estate purchase. So the first thing I thought of was it really lacks any comprehensive metrics. So the only real metrics that feed into the Fraser rankings are usually socioeconomic factors and test scores. But when it comes to these 2 things, they aren't always a great representative of how good a school really is. So when we think of test scores, a school could test bad in math or languages for a whole litany of reasons. It doesn't necessarily mean that it has bad teachers or bad instructors. The rankings actually don't take some other very important learning metrics into their calculations and equations. It doesn't really take any artistic programs or athletic programs or any other programs like that that help enrich students' lives. These are the things that the Fraser Report really should be taking into account if they wanted to have a proper ranking of these schools, but they don't, because these things are a little tougher to measure. And I guess a big think group like the Fraser, I guess they don't have the funds to actually do this research. And I say that tongue in cheek because they absolutely do. They likely choose not to take these things into account. That leads me then to my second thing, which is a potential misrepresentation of the school's actual quality. So while we went into the facts and figures that went into the rankings themselves, sometimes that high-ranking school might have significant weaknesses in areas like student support or inclusivity. Or a lower-ranking school might actually be really strong in community support, inclusivity, and may actually align much better with a certain family's needs. And then they may also have innovative teaching approaches that might better align with certain students' needs. And then the third point I'd like to bring up is circling back to socioeconomic factors. It's no secret that when we look at the Fraser rankings, they punish a lot of the schools that are in lower income neighborhoods without actually factoring in why some of these schools may not perform so well on tests. And then a lot of higher income neighborhoods are overrepresented in high rankings, and it may not necessarily be representative of the quality of teaching necessarily. It could actually just be a lot of the extra support that some of these students are getting outside of the school. So you could buy real estate in a neighborhood thinking, wow, the ranking of this school is excellent, so my kids are going to get a great education. Have your kids go to the school and then realize that 80% of the school's population are tutored by outside resources, and perhaps quality of the education isn't really that great. It's just the parents who can afford to pay for extra tutoring and extra services outside of the classroom. So the ranking can be a bit of a false flag. But then there's the fourth factor that I think a lot of people should take into account, and they may not necessarily consider when we look at these rankings. And that's just the pressure and stress that it puts on our kids and the students, and also us parents. So if you're in one of these high-ranking neighborhoods, you're not putting extra pressure and stress on your kids to succeed. As I mentioned in the last section, that when we go into these neighborhoods that are high-ranking, we not understand the dynamics of the neighborhood, and that perhaps there's a lot of parents paying for extra tutoring. So yes, the school and the test rankings may be high, and now you're trying to keep up with the Joneses, and now you're having to spend extra money on tutoring and extra support for your kids just to try to make sure that your kids are still keeping up with these rankings. And again, when we think about things like this, and we think about how teachers are placed in different schools and different school districts, I know from experience and speaking to people that I know who are teachers and family members who are teachers, the school boards are intelligent and generally they'll place some of their best and brightest in the schools that need the most help. So if you're a parent out there who doesn't have the resources to pay for all the extra tutoring and extra support outside the classroom, it may not necessarily be the best scenario to put your child in one of these schools that may not have the best and the brightest of teachers. Not to say that there's a hierarchy of teachers, but there's certainly some teachers that are better than others, and especially some teachers are better at supporting kids that need more support. And the school boards will put those teachers in the areas that need more support more often than not. And then not only that, when we look at some of the critiques of the Fraser rankings, and there are a lot out there. If you're watching this video, just do a quick Google of the Fraser report, and it's people on all ends of the political spectrum who kind of call out this report as being a little bit bogus. I know in my own personal experience, I've had my kids in schools that had both extremely high Fraser rankings and kind of mediocre Fraser rankings. And I'll tell you from my own anecdotal experience that my kids actually had a much, or not only had and are having a much better experience in some of these schools that may not rank that high, but they have artistic and, my kids are athletes, they have great athletic programs. And they've actually found that the teachers in some of these schools, especially my youngest right now, he is an excellent teacher who's a bit more of a old school teacher when we think of like a disciplinarian and giving homework and being a little tougher on the kids. And it's actually made kids it's made my son, and I'm sure it made a lot of the kids in class, a bit more resilient as humans. And I think from my own personal opinion, I think we do need to build a few more resilient kids out there who are stronger and have stronger wills and stronger minds and stronger mentalities. And some of these teachers are in the schools that may not perform as well on the Fraser rankings. So while the Fraser rankings are great as a guide, I'm going to dunk on it a little bit and say that if you're out there basing your real estate decisions on a Fraser ranking, that you're probably doing something wrong. No, I'm not just going to sit here and just complain and dunk on the Fraser report and not give you any insight into what you should be looking for when you're buying real estate and making school a deciding factor. The number one thing you can do, and I'm sure a lot of you do that already, is talk to friends and family and colleagues and people you know about the different schools in different neighborhoods in the city of Toronto. A lot of the times, the best way to find out where the good schools are and what the good school districts are is just to talk to people who send their kids to these schools in these districts. If you can't get the information that you're looking for out of your friends and colleagues and circle of people you know, the second thing you can do, and I suggest this to a lot of my clients, is visit the neighborhood with your kids. Go to the parks, go to the school playgrounds on weekends, not during school hours, or you'll have the police called on you pretty quickly, but go to the neighborhoods, go to these areas where other parents congregate, and just strike up conversations with people who are there and ask them like, hey, we're new to this neighborhood, we're potentially looking to buy a house nearby, what do you think of the schools here? And parents are usually, and most parents who are there, are usually open books, and they'll give you all of the dirt, the gossip, the good, the bad, the ugly on the neighborhoods or on the schools in that neighborhood. That's a great way of finding out, does the school align with your visions of what your kid's education looks like in that neighborhood. Then lastly, if you are just looking for rankings, instead of looking at the Fraser rankings, just look at the Ontario website of EQAO. You can just look at the raw data directly and start clicking through the list of the different schools and finding the simple raw test scores without the lens of the Fraser report and adding their socioeconomic data to that and having a ranking. Look at the test scores directly and then come up with your own decision. All right, so that about wraps up the podcast for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts on number one, the MPI, the Market Pulse Index, what you think of it. Like I said, there's going to be a blog post on my website You can look at the data, look at the numbers, you can critique it. If you're a mathematician out there, you can say these numbers don't make any sense. Let me know. If they don't, I'll try to tweak it a little bit, see if it can make a bit more sense mathematically. Seemed like it made sense to me. Definitely let me know if you like it. If you like the market price index, let me know. I'd love to hear feedback on that. When it comes to families living in condos, I know there's a lot of you out there who absolutely hate the idea. Comment away, sure, but there are a lot of you who actually like the idea and are considering the idea. I'd love to hear your feedback. I know there's a lot of negative people online, but I'd love to hear some of the positive things. If you are currently living in a condo with a family, post. If you're thinking about it, post it down below. If you are interested in either the 2 buildings that I talked about in that segment, let me know and I can give you some more information, or I can give you information on other great condo, family-friendly condo buildings in the city of Toronto. And then lastly, the hot button topic of rankings and school rankings. Let me know your thoughts on my thought process. Do you like the Fraser rankings? Is it something that you think shouldn't be talked about anymore when it comes to school rankings? Are test scores a thing? If you have kids, your personal experience with schools and school rankings, if you purchase real estate based on a school ranking, how it worked out for you, I'd love to hear all of that. Throw them down in the comments. I'd love to start discourse on all of these topics, and I'll try to respond to anyone and everyone who puts a comment down in there. So thanks for listening to this podcast. As it goes with all podcasts, I'll also be dividing this into 3 separate videos, which is a little bit easier to digest, because sometimes it's tough to listen or watch all this in one go. Some of you do, and I thank the ones who do. And yeah, as always, I invite you all to like, subscribe, and I'd love to build a community of more people under the real estate, especially young families looking to stay in the city. And as I like to say always, as a sign off on all of my videos, the best things in life are where you least expect them. So stay positive and keep an open mind. Peace out.